What would that be like football playing?
I'll go back. I've never had a lot of thoughts, and I wasted a lot of time thinking about it because I'm not a decision maker in this whole thing. But when we went from 2 to 4, I was not in favor of that. And I get the argument, but to me, it's done. In my opinion, I think it's maybe been more harmful to our game in some ways than helpful. And my attitude then was like, if we're not going to do 2, then let's just go to whatever, 16 or more the merrier. And that's a whole different discussion. But now, fast forward to what Tony's suggesting. I think it's great. I'm all for it. I think it gives more opportunity for more teams, makes the games in the second half of the season more significant. That'll be good for fan interest. Not that we are lacking fan interest, but it's going to even increase it. And during the pandemic here, we talked about doing crossover games. We had one scheduled with Michigan, it got canceled, but I think it's great. I mean, why not? I'm all for it. So, plus it's more games on the campuses, which is another positive.
What's the relationship like with you and the other coaches? With Tony and the team, it seems fairly collaborative. There's no way this plan would have gotten off the ground if you guys were out of.
Yeah, I can't speak for the other coaches, but I can just say he has really been such an impressive leader. It's been just thoroughly enjoyable to get to know him a little bit, in my role, and to work with him. He's a great listener, first and foremost. He's highly intelligent. Not that he walks around, advertising it, but you can just tell he really knows his business, and he's a great listener. And I think he's a great communicator. He'll ask very direct questions, and he actually does listen and processes. And my sense is like he's that way with a lot of people. It's not just going to 2 people or whatever. So I think he truly does represent what everybody in the conference collectively would hope for, and he's very direct. Doesn't waste time, which I appreciate. And so if you have a meeting with him, it's worthwhile. Wasting time. I think it's a good meeting. It's interactive. It's brief. Not what you have to get into. I've thoroughly enjoyed my exposure with him in the meetings.
Coach Ferentz is now second to you in terms of longevity. What advice would you have when you get 4 years, 27?
I don't know. I'm not a big one on giving advice, but I'm only chuckling a little bit. I just think it's a sad commentary that, I've been here 20. If I can make it through the season, it'll be 27. So it's never going to happen again. In this world, I don't see anybody being able to stay or wanting to stay somewhere that long. It's just because the world's changed that way, and we have so many more critics and experts out there than we used to have. So it's made it really tough, I think, for people to coach. And it's always been true in the NFL, although that whole thing's blown up as well. And, we're not the most patient group as a society. Society of sports fans. So it's a different world. The only thing I can say is you can't worry about it. You just do your job. People are going to tell you to sit down, or you'll figure it out. It's going to sit down. One of the two, but it's going to happen.
What are your impressions now of James today?
He's done a great job. There's nothing to say, but he's done a great job. You may or may not know I grew up in that part of the country. I wanted to go to Penn State. It's a matter of record. There's a reason Coach Paterno won all the games he won. They didn't offer me a scholarship, and for good reason. They wasn't very big. But they were great in the 60s, 70s. That's when I grew up watching the Steelers in the 70s. So I've had great respect for that program, know a lot about it. And that success and tradition carried on from. That's probably started somewhere in the mid-60s when Coach Paterno took over from Coach Angle.
Coach, SEC challenge your state to
Yes and no. I'm not trying to know all the details of it, but I know this week played one more conference game than they do, so that's a good deal for them. And that's, I'm not great in math, but the math has to work in my mind. So, and currently we play 9 conference games, our 10th is against Iowa State. So for us to tell Iowa State we're not playing and go play, I'm not sure I'm I would sign up for that, quite frankly. In fact, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. And with all due respect to the SEC, but we've already got a world that we're living in, and whatever. But if they end up going to 9 games like we do, or we go to 8 like they do, then maybe it's a discussion. Right now, I don't think it's worth talking about because of that. I just said a minute ago, once we went past 1-1, to me it might as well have been 16. To go to 4, I don't know what purpose that served, but yeah. So I'd rather, whatever we end up coming with, the model that I think all of us are in agreement in the Big Ten is good. I think we're unanimous. I don't speak for the other guys, but I fully support what the commissioners put forward. We'll see what happens.
What's the best thing about coaching quarterbacks? What's something you've learned over the years coaching that position?
Quarterbacks? They don't be coaching the quarterbacks. I yell at them every time there's an exchange. The only thing I can tell you about quarterbacks that makes me unique, everywhere I've ever been, it's always the center's fault when there's a quarterback-center exchange. And we actually do have center quarterbacks exchanges when I'm shotgun every play. But I always tell our quarterbacks, if there's the balls on the ground, you're at fault, not the center. That's the way it is. So get with the center and get it straight. That's your job.
Coach Ferentz, with a year under Tim Lester's belt, how do you see improvements in quarterback comfortability, timing, and overall offensive prowess as it comes into this season?
Ironically, none of our top 3 quarterbacks were here last fall, so they're all going through the same thing. But for the overall group, for the overall offense, everybody, it's a lot more fluid now because it was all new a year ago. I said earlier, I've never in my career been involved in the West Coast offense. Certainly knew about it in the NFL. It's a very different offense in terms of communications. I mean, it's very wordy, a lot of verbiage. And I've always been in systems where it's as concise as possible. So that was an exchange, but it was a bigger exchange for me because I have a bigger knowledge base. Our players took to it real easily, but everything's a lot more fluid now than it was certainly a year ago. And quarterbacks are doing just fine with that.
Where do you feel like cornerback competition at this point? How do you corner, not corner?
Oh, corner?
Corner.
Yes.
Corner. Where do you feel like the competition's at in terms of depth and starting spots?
Eager to see, really anxious to see. I think, first thing, the 2 guys that played the most, TJ and Deshaun, both took big steps in the spring. They've played, but they were surviving. And I don't mean it maybe in those terms, but, they're capable of doing better, hopefully down the road. And that's part of the growth process. And really saw them start to take those strides and have some of the confidence you get the guy has this spring. So I think they both improved, and they're really good perspective guys. And I've got a lot of love for what Jalen Watson does. I think he saw him do things on special teams that are really hard to do. I'm thinking about one particular punt. He was blocking their gunner right in front of our bench, and he did a really nice job. And that's really hard to do. I'm thinking about Dallas Clark blocking as our center on the kick return team 25 years ago. But when you see guys do some things on special teams, you can easily see that carrying over to what they're going to do in their roles. And so he'll be in the middle of it. And then we brought Shahid in. I think he'll be in the competition. And so I described the big podium. I think we've got a lot of positions right now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And that's a great thing about having the month of August. We've got a month to evaluate and see where guys are at, because it'll look different than it did in April. And, I think it wouldn't shock me, even in September, we'll see more of that as we go. Excuse me.
Kirk, you started 1-10, 2-18, pretty impressive, by the way.
Almost perfect.
Almost perfect.
Not quite. And the one was like, well, that actually both of them flips. Northern Illinois ran back a block kick. LeVar did, I think, was. And Coach said, no, he's our special teams guy, right? And then the Michigan State game, they probably had like 490 yards. I think we had 120. Ran back a kick, and Casper ran one of those screens, perimeter screens where you can't, have to block anybody. And so we were good at that, not blocking guys. And he caught the ball and scored. And so it was really kind of a fluke win. The win number 3 was like a legitimate win.
So you should have started 0-20.
Could have, could have. Close.
Could anybody in today's environment survive that?
Tony Dungy had a quote or a tweet somewhere. I think it was this past offseason, maybe it was the last one, but because the NFL firing system was the season. And I know Chuck Noll history pretty well. he got off to an auspicious beginning in his career. Tom Landry, a lot of coaches did back in the day, and those guys wouldn't have survived. I'm not sure Coach K would have survived in today's world, right? So it just, God, there should be a lesson learned, but there's not going to be because we're all so
Do you
patient.
think coaches change the way they may do things because they know they don't have the runway that maybe you and other coaches did?
Yeah, like if I was just starting right now, I'd probably be looking for it a little bit differently than I did back then. Like two things. Number one, I never had to be a head coach, so it wasn't like. Believe me, I wanted us to be successful, and I wanted to be successful. But like you do in anything you do, but like if it didn't work out, it was not going to end my life. I was perfectly happy being a position coach. But if that's what your total ambition is, then yeah, it'd probably make you do some stuff that maybe. So at least at that point, I was confident enough not to get. I wasn't going to start doing stupid stuff just to try to get to next week. I wasn't in the mood to do that.
Kirk, you saw the Generals defense the past couple of years at Ohio State. Now that he's at Penn State, what makes that system difficult to go up against, and what do you think he can do with what Penn State has done in terms of their talent on defense?
Yeah, I mean they've obviously been pretty good on defense, regardless. Like they've really and again, I'll go back to when I was a kid or fast forward. They typically had really good players and they played well. So the only thing I would say, I've got tremendous respect for Coach Knowles. I thought that was a great hire. Not that I'm a judge or evaluator, but when he went to Oklahoma State, Ryan went to Oklahoma State and plucked him out of there. To me, it seemed like a really smart hire. And then watching them work the way they did, they're really good on defense. It's a tough scheme, a good scheme. They've had good players, but those guys play hard. They're really sound. They don't give you anything easy. And my guess is that's what Penn State will look like next year too, same way. And that's coaching, regardless of what you're, 3-man, 4-man, blitz a lot, don't blitz a lot, but they don't give you easy stuff. And you got good players that play hard and they're sound, which I'm assuming that's what we'll see next year at Penn State.
Kirk, talking a little bit more about.
Another never-ending global question, but I guess it's impacted you guys some. But some schools a lot during bowl season, and they take different. Wake Forest talking about that this week because he was at Washington State. His team had really been wiped out in the bowl games a few times the last few years. And I asked him, what about the portal?